In the book, I recount my experience 2 years earlier of having dealt with the loss of two family members only 6 short weeks apart, followed by the sudden implosion of my 32-year marriage a month later. By going on an 800-kilometer spiritual pilgrimage across Spain, known as the Camino de Santiago. The Camino is renowned the world over for its healing effects and its ability to transform loss and grief into acceptance and forgiveness, all of which, given my shattered inner state, I desperately needed. Under a mountain of grief and heartache that nearly suffocated me, I showed up to the Camino in pieces and began the greatest physical and spiritual healing journey of my life to date. 5 weeks and a lifetime or more of introspection later, I completed my pilgrimage and returned home with a deep level of peace and acceptance in my heart that I had never known before. I wanted to share my experiences in the hopes that they would bring peace to others facing loss and grief as well. Unfortunately, my own sense of peace was shattered shortly after I returned from my healing journey. When I returned from my pilgrimage 15 months earlier, it seemed as though the Camino de Santiago's healing reputation was indeed well earned. A month after I found my way back to Chicago in August, my then estranged husband Patrick contacted me and said he loved me and wanted to work on putting our marriage back together, which seemed like a miracle unto itself. Surprised but overjoyed, I suggested that, as a way for us to heal as a couple, we walk the Camino together. Having just experienced its deeply transformative effect, I thought it could be a profoundly healing shared experience that would symbolically take us out of our troubled past and lead us into a cooperative and trusting future once and for all. He agreed, and the future began to look fantastic. For me, for him, and for our family. We planned our healing pilgrimage for the following June, 10 months from that meeting, and began a huge effort to try and understand one another and repair our connection in the meantime. He lived in Colorado, and I lived in our home in Chicago at the time, so much of this took place long distance. It wasn't easy, but we were trying. Knowing from experience what a rigorous journey the Camino would be, I also began to prepare for my second Camino pilgrimage. Unlike the first time when I waited until the very last minute to get ready, I put real thought into what lay ahead so I would be able to keep up with Patrick when we went together. He was athletic and I wasn't. I didn't want to hamper our healing pilgrimage by limping along the path as I had for much of my first journey. No, this time I would be strong and able. Instead of him running ahead and waiting impatiently for me to catch up, as had so often been the case over the years, we would walk side by side. I bought new boots for the trip, as my old ones had destroyed my feet. I properly broke them in so there would be no complaining on my part, and knowing the importance of packing lightly, something I did not know or respect the first time I walked the Camino, I chose my clothes carefully and pared down to the minimum of basics. After all, I wanted to have this Camino be one of leaving all excess baggage behind. I was also acutely aware of how much I wanted to accommodate Patrick on this adventure instead of asking him to accommodate me, a trait I knew had caused a lot of stress and resentment in our marriage over the years. I worked out at the gym, lifting weights and doing squats and bench presses, so I would be strong and agile on the trip. I knew these things would help me keep up and were also important to Patrick. I booked my ticket and began to plan the logistics of the journey all over again, assuming that Patrick was making his own plans to meet me in Spain on June 1st. Imagine my shock when, just 5 weeks before we were to leave for Spain, I opened an email from my ex-attorney informing me